corner of hers and selected her as a host.
Okay, dokie.
Somewhere down the bottom.
Change host. Judy, you're up. You're the host.
Amazing,
Awesome.
Levi. Thanks so much for all your sharing.
Oh, I'd love to.
Kia ora, everyone on the meeting call tonight. My name's Judy. I'm here for Kelmarna Gardens, which I've been involved with for the last 3+ years. But first off, I would like to acknowledge Levi and his team, For the Love of Bees, because I have been learning many techniques and processes through their programs, and I'm very grateful for where I'm up to as far as being a grower, being a farmer, and just really developing my skill on site at Kelmarna. So Kelmarna, as some of you will know, is a very well-established site. It's been around now 40 years. So it's, we've got a lot of infrastructure there that has been there for that long as well. But it all started out in the early 80s that there was Paul Lagersteed set up a biointensive market garden on that site. So, right from the very beginning, Kelmarna was operating as a market garden. And so, that went on for a number of years. So the site itself the land itself is owned by the council. So we lease the land from the council. It's probably $1 a year. And that land, that lease comes up every 5 years for renewal. And we don't really have to tell them too much. They're pretty happy with what we're doing. So we just keep going. So yeah, back in the early 80s, yes, as I said, it was working as a market garden, and Paul Lagersteed was training people to become farmers right back then. And, it's had many incarnations since that time. There's been Framework Trust involved for 23 years. So they were basically the big investors in Kelmarna Gardens for that time period. So, Adrian Roche has been the manager on site there for 20 years. So, there's some things that are really well established and well ingrained about the site that sometimes make things not so easy to integrate new ideas and new ways of growing and, move forward. But coming from that period when Adrian was there on his own with the Framework Trust group, Framework Trust pulled out in 2015. So since that year, we've been finding our feet, and I wasn't involved until 2018, I think. And so, Kelmarna's been finding its feet to become a sustainable operation on that land. So how do we become a sustainable operation? So that we're all learning this, we're all learning how to do it. But of course, it's going to come through our programs, the food that we're growing, and we still offer therapy. So, we have people with disabilities coming to our site, and they don't get much support. We don't have funding for that, but we choose because our past is so, ingrained, I suppose, in offering support for people with special needs. So we provide that space for therapy gardening. So that's one way we kind of work to support members of the community, but we also offer, volunteering opportunities. So, you can come and volunteer with us and learn some things about growing food. But also we want to build food security. We want to have opportunities for people to see these are ways that you can become self-sufficient on your own properties. So, these volunteering opportunities haven't always been there as far as training programs. Just in the last year, we've started a new program, which is designed to basically draw people that want to become like committed growers. So they want to actually learn some skills. So we offer a 16-week program called Farm Hands, and myself and Adrian are teaching that program. And, you know, the people that come, we chose 10 people out of 30 applicants to become our first group on the site. But, you know, all stopped on hold at the moment. But those people are really getting in and really supporting us in the work that we do. So, you know, talking from where Levi left off, you know, like, you know, how do we become better productive farmers? How do we draw an income off this land? How do we do it better? And because I'm the production manager, I'm learning on the fly. Basically, I've been growing for 10 years plus, but I haven't always been doing this methodology. So I'm learning regenerative agriculture. You know, I'm learning to grow in guilds, and, you know, like sometimes, you know, I'm not employed for a full-time week at Kelmarna, so I have other jobs as teaching with Compost Collective and also teaching my own program. So, you know, 30 hours a week, I've got to pull off producing food off for how much we've got, 400 square meters of land in operation currently. So, you know, we've got to develop the techniques that actually work. So this includes efficiencies in all areas of what we do. So efficiencies on how we harvest, how we wash and process the food that we're selling. So it's a little bit different to what Levi's doing. We're moving towards a CSA, but currently we're operating with our shop because we've always had a shop at Kelmarna. So, you know, we've changed the hours of the shop over the last year or so that we are open on 2 days a week, Wednesday and Saturday. So people can come to us at that time and choose what they want to buy from us. So again, we're still looking at our model. Is it working for us? We're supplying to restaurants. We're supplying to local food producers. And they're all people in our local community. We supply Ozone Cafe. We supply Forest. We supply Bread and Butter. We supply Little Bird. So, you know, we've got a bigger piece of land, slab of land to work with. But, you know, like there's still work to be done on our site. So we're doing what we can to supply the people that support us. So it's all the ways, we're finding ways also on site. We offer a whole lot of programs. So we have education for children and adults. We have, as I said, the therapy gardening. You know, and, you know, mums and babies have a day that they can come to the gardens, you know, that it's their day. You know, so we try and kind of cater really heavily for our local community. Of course, we're growing this amazing organic food for people in our local community. So I've really noticed with the COVID lockdowns that we're down to a skeleton crew on the site. You know, we really have to be at high performance at the moment because all our volunteers aren't able to join us. So we're down to a few in our small teams every day. But, you know, we have to, you know, do what we can. And it's a really good time period to actually assess what we're doing and maybe consider ways that we can improve the way that we're working. Okay, so right now we're in the middle of an expansion phase. Myself and the members of my team, there's now 6 of us in the team. So originally it was, as I said, just Adrian, and over the last 3 years, quite a few of us have joined him. So Andy Bohr has just recently been elected our acting general manager. So he's the numbers guy, which is really awesome, and he's a great you know, listener. He's a great leader, I feel, between all of us. He's got his head in the right place. And also then Adrian's the site manager and myself as the production manager. And then we have Maddie on board. So Maddie's running the Soil Factory. So the Soil Factory is a community composting initiative. So as Levi mentioned, people can bring to us their waste, their food waste, and we charge them a small fee. And of course, this is paying for Maddie's wage, which is truly awesome. And then we have another junior on site, Sarah, who's you know, my support person. So she's worked at Pakaraka Farms, and she's really, really great at, like, you know, understanding how a market garden should be operating. So maybe not in the style that, you know, I'm learning from Levi, which is doing all the diversity in bed. So she's come from a different perspective, but you know, I'm trying to rein her in and bring her on board with this methodology. Just like all the volunteers and the farm hands members that come to our programs, I'm also trying to bring everyone up to speed with the things that I've been learning over the last couple of years, because I can see that it works, you know, like this is what it's about. It's about, you know, this application, this observation, like you can always outdo yourself. Like this is the beauty of growing. You can always achieve more than what, you know, you were doing last year. So it's like a challenge that you have to go out there and actually, how can I do this better? You know, how can I improve and how can I increase the income for Kelmarna? You know, because that's the challenge every day. That's the challenge. You know, so we are growing a diverse range of vegetables, not a huge range, but we also have a food forest on site. So that means that we have this extra offering. So we have, you know, citrus, we have avocados, we have plums, we have apples and pears, but all that comes with a cost to us because it requires management. And it's a great thing to have. I wouldn't be without those trees. Those trees provide so much for us and so much for the insects and the pollinators. And I'm just, yeah, if you haven't been to Kelmarna, please come and join us after lockdown. Because it's a public reserve. Anyone can come to Kelmarna and enjoy it, have a picnic. And yes, as I said, we're in an expansive phase. So yeah, I still haven't been through all the members of my team. So Sean is on board as our education coordinator. So he works a lot with schools and he designs a program full of educators. Ellen's here tonight. She's doing mushrooms with us. And I teach my own programs on the site, which is really about the basics of growing and a bit more. So really, I'm coming from a permaculture perspective. But yeah, how to, you know, thinking about diversity, about the understory species, about the canopy. So, you know, the same thing that Levi's talking about in a market garden, it applies. Doesn't matter where, you know, it's about this diversity of species feeding the microorganisms, you know. So you can do it with big trees, you can do it with small trees, you can do it, but just pack it in, you know, pack it in and you just see life, you see life emerging. So anyway, yep, so that's the 6 of us. I think I've been through everyone on site. So what we're in the process of doing right now, if any of you have been to Kelmarna, we have paddocks connected to our site. So the whole site is 1.7 hectares. It's not all being utilised and it hasn't been for a long time. Like the paddocks themselves are being grazed by animals, the land itself has been leased out. Some of you may know Jaffa. Jaffa's been there for over 10 years, the resident pony. So, you know, it's like we've suddenly have enough oomph behind us to actually go, okay, let's work on the paddocks. Let's extend our reach. Let's design the next part of Kelmarna or the next phase of Kelmarna. So that is that we're moving into the paddocks. We're looking at holistic grazing. So sheep we've got in there at the moment, the Wiltshire sheep. So they've been there for, I think, about 6 months now. But they've made, Emma's got the slides actually of, I haven't got any Instagram photos. I'm not like I wish I did have, but I don't. But Emma's got some photos she might be able to pull up because you will see the site as it stands. We've got some fairly recent aerial shots, which will give you a good idea of our positioning in the city. So we are in Ponsonby and, you know, like we've got a lot of land. We're on the Cox's Bay Reserve border. So, you know, in these paddocks, our intention is we've talked to community about what we would like to do with these paddocks. So they've kind of been on side with us. We want them on side because we're moving into territory which hasn't been great in the past. So, we've got the okay from community to move forward and actually do some silvopasture. So that means kind of alley cropping. So we're bringing edible trees, food for humans, food for animals, food for chickens, because we're going to follow the sheep with chickens. So that's kind of a 3-day cycle. They come in 3 days after a sheep have been in one of the paddocks. But of course, there's a whole planting planning progress at the moment. We're working with a sustainable landscape architect, and as to what species we're going to include in the mix. We've got some areas that are very wet, some areas that are dry, higher up, closer to our current food forest. How are we going to make this work? And again, just the same efficiencies that we apply in market gardening, we need to think about in the paddocks, because we're moving animals around every few days. So that's big labor, we're a small team and we stretch ourselves, vastly, because we want all these things to happen on our site. So this is where we're really heavily dependent on volunteers. We could not do it without volunteers. They are crucial to our operation, and we're just so grateful that we have, such a core team. But, with the Farm Hands program, we felt that this was the way that we could get back what we need to take us forward. This whole market garden, I haven't even mentioned yet, but there's a market garden. Emma, I don't know if you can find those photos, but there's a market garden in development stage. There's probably 150 square meters worked out, and it's actually in progress. It's got green manure crops in it, but it hasn't got much food yet. But of course, it requires labor. I would love to spend a whole week on it and just plant it out. But my main goal is to get the current site full of food before I move over to the market garden. So this market garden, the plan is that we move out to 600 square meters. So, it's still a big production as far as thinking we'll hire a junior for that operation full time, so again, we're working towards having our CSA like Levi. So Levi's the lead. He's really the lead in the field because he's doing something really impressive, and he's inspired so many of us to follow suit. So, we want to follow suit, and I intend that we do. And we're partway there, but not all the way in yet. So we're designing a Farm Hands program that's just for market gardeners, and that, they can come and help get this project off the ground. So that's the market garden site. And then there's the alley cropping or the silvopasture with all the trees, diversity in tree species. We've got animals in the paddocks now, and they don't have a lot of shade. So we've got to think about their needs. We've got to think about our needs, and how do we build on that? And how do we slow down the water that's flooding down off the slopes of the paddocks? So, does it have to be ripped? Like, the only reason I feel it may need to be ripped is because we seed into the rips. At the moment, it's a kikuyu heavy paddock, and you can't break through that mat that the kikuyu creates. So we're looking at potentially ripping all the paddocks so that we can just get some other species into the paddocks for the animals. So, these are all techniques that we're all learning. We're learning on a learning journey all the way. So I didn't even talk about my background, but my backgrounds come from growing on other sites. So I developed a community garden. Anne knows the one out at Triangle Park. So that was 6 years of my life investment at Triangle Park Community Garden. But that was me applying my permaculture learning. So I'm very much a hands-on learner. And then I was involved in Orake Community Garden up at the Marae for 4 years, as well as Kaipariki project, working with native species and volunteers. I'm a people person. I love having people to share this journey with. It's not about me, it's about us joining together and finding a way together and sharing the knowledge. It really, there's what's missing right now is this ability to really come together and be together. It really restricts in so many ways. But, you know, we can still make progress and we can still hold a vision for what we're wanting to create, because that's how we'll get there. So what else do I want to talk about? Probably, what would you like to know? You can jump in now if you like and direct me to what you would like to know about Kelmarna. Emma, did you find those
Judy?
photos?
Oh, I can't share them unless you put me as host again.
Oh, okay. Am I the host right now?
Yeah. But you can do questions first if you want.
Okay. What are the most popular crops? Oh no, that's to Levi, yeah?
Yeah.
What tree crops are planned? So Ellen's asking that question. Well, it's interesting, Ellen, because there's a few of us choosing the tree crops, right? And of course, you know, we have preferences. So there's definitely going to be avocados as part of those tree crops, because we're currently growing avocados successfully, but we're also going to include plums, and we'll include pears hopefully as well. We've got to think about the diseases that we see with these crops, you know, but we're not managing our tree species very well, which is unfortunate. So just recently we put up some guava moth traps because of guava moth, the pheromone traps, but you know, it's very specific, which a lot of you may already know that, you know, for codling moth you need the right pheromone, but apparently it is quite effective. So, you know, everything that you add, the bigger you get, you know, the more work you've got to do. So think about that when you're expanding your sites. Yeah. Anyone else got a question that you can jump in? Avocados need, what's your water plan? Okay, so the water plan currently, so the water plan is to have swales off contour. Yep, so to slow the water down and hold it around the tree plantings. At the moment, we're not intending to include a pond. We want to just slow the water down on the slopes. What else do I want to say about the water plan? In the market garden, we're having overhead irrigation over drip irrigation, like, you know, in the whole site now, because the infrastructure is so ancient, we end up doing a whole lot of hand watering. Hand watering takes a lot of time. Again, we can ask volunteers to come and help us, but you know, it's all because the system is failing. And when the system is failing, it lets you down, and it's really, it costs money. Everything costs money to change, you know, and, you know, because we're extending ourselves so far, we're not addressing some of those issues, and we work with it as it is because we have to, you know.
I was wondering about the animals, the interaction between the animals and
Yes.
the gardens and the manures and things like that. Was there any?
Yes, so that's a great question. You know, I'm not an expert on animal husbandry, but you know, apparently my colleagues, Andy Bohr especially, has been doing a lot of research with Ridgedale permaculture in Sweden, and also Joel Salatin on the holistic grazing front. So, you know, it's every 3 days, or we could be moving these animals every 1 or 2 days, but kind of that's, as I've talked about, it costs time. So it might be every 1 or every 2 days over every day. Apparently the chickens come in behind. So chickens are intended as part of the system. So they'll come in 3 days following the sheep being moved on. So it's all about the dung beetles having time to process, do their bit with the poo, and then making it safe for the chickens. Yeah. Hopefully that gives you some idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I'm happy to take questions.
Shall I be the host again, and I'll show them the photos that might trigger their questions.
Yeah, I can't. Where's the host section, guys?
So go to my photo, and it's down the right hand or top right hand side, and you click, and you should be able to find it on the list.
Okay. So I just go make host. Oh, that's easy. Okay, so yeah, I could have had some photo. I would have had photos if I knew I could have done that, but sorry guys, but hopefully Emma's got some. Okay, let's move through the next one.
Can you see that?
Yeah, keep going.
Who's that pretty face?
All right. So yeah, so then those of you that have never been there before, you can see there, that's Hukanui Crescent that you can see to the right of the screen. And that big blank kind of triangle paddock is where Jaffa has been grazing, and now he's been moved down next door to the market garden that you can see the first stage of development there. Yeah, so, oh yeah, so that's the market garden. Honing in on the market garden, you can see it's still a pretty bare site, but you know, there's a bit of work done to knock back the kikuyu, and methods that I'm learning that probably weren't the best strategy with using polythene is not great because it's going to kill off the life in the soil. So if you are going to be doing that yourselves, use weed mat so it's still permeable. Yeah, and then you can see the mulch pile there next to the market garden. So that's intended to be part of the market garden. So it's going to extend into that paddock as well. Jaffa's already gone down one paddock next door to the market garden. He's now surrounded by an electric fence. And the market garden will keep going parallel to where it is now to that fence line and include a greenhouse going forward, or a shade house as well. So it's going to end up being, and where you see those trees with the shade, so that's the casuarinas down that top fence line on the triangle paddock, that's where the soil factory has been set up and will establish itself. So it's the carbon cycle boxes, and they're about 1.2 cubic meters in size. So yeah, that's all very new, that operation there as well.
Sorry, Judy, just a question. What's sort of the distance from those casuarinas where you're going to be setting up the composting to the market garden?
So the distance is only, I don't know, not to the entrance of that gate to the market garden would only be, would it be 12 meters from the actual site?
Oh, yeah.
So kind of halfway down that paddock, as in alongside the casuarinas. Yeah, so it's not very far. I mean, from the get-go, we're going to be trucking, or not trucking, sorry, we're going to be using a buggy or a handcart of some form to move produce from the market garden to our current wash station, which is up at close to the shop. So we're utilizing our now infrastructure to keep, you know, to wash the produce, but it's going to be quite a lot of walking for people, and time costs to us moving to the current setup. You know, in the future, there may be something set up closer to the market garden site, likely, you know, because you think we can use our current buildings to pack vegetables, which we're doing currently because of right now in this lockdown period where we've got everything online. So you can actually buy from us directly online. So we've got now 2 days a week, we're really intensive harvesting. So Wednesday and Thursday for customer pick collections on Friday. So that's both food, like vegetables, and seedlings. So, you know, it's been full activity in the last 3 months, you know. But it's fortunate we can do that because, like Levi, we don't like waste. We're still not doing the best we could be as far as, you know, getting people to provide their own containers, but that's our campaign leaving lockdown. It's like we don't want to be using packages, but through this period it's quite difficult, and we weren't set up like Levo was with his system with a CSA. It's quite different when you're supplying to restaurants, but we still do like return containers with restaurants. but yeah, those things is always something that can be improved, you know, so we keep working at it. So there's the sheep in the paddock. They're in the sheep in the paddock down from the food forest, one of the biggest parts of the food forest. You can see that in there the Titonia, the flower, the yellow flowers. So that excretes a hormone that pushes back kikuyu. So in our development phase, someone did ask the question, what species are in the mix? So definitely Titonia is going to be in the mix because it's very fast growing. It's going to push back some kikuyu, and then we can get in the canopy trees in behind that particular species. Cool. And this is the current site, what it looks like in operation. So these photos were taken in June. So you can still see there's some bare beds, but you know, like I do feel like I'm improving my strategies as far as like getting more out of the gardens. And so every week at our weekly meeting, we have the sales figures, and it's always like really, we do comparisons back to the year before, this month, last year. And you know, we are in a growth period, but only a very minimal growth period, but it's starting to show up just now. It wasn't last month, but it's starting to show up now. So different times of the year, it does seem that you get better results, and it does change every year as to what month that'll be, or how good was your timing with that particular plant, the celery that you planted. You know, like even now I'm just so, celery was kind of one of the plants I chose because it was such a bad performer when I started learning about regenerative agriculture. So I was like, right, this plant's going to show me if I'm doing things better. And, you know, we are using biologics products. We've got a whole recipe designed by Daniel because, you know, we've got imbalances in our soil. We've got, over the years, this is where I can mention things about, you know, time periods and people involvement and things that are done that you don't know about. But we've got high phosphorus. So high phosphorus locks up other minerals. So it locks up calcium, it locks up potassium potentially, and it behaves like a lac. So the things that happen with your soil through time can be detrimental, which it has been for the current site. Like things are more in balance in the market garden from a soil test. They show that they're more imbalanced than our current site. So this remediation process is quite something. You know, the celery's improving. I can actually say it's now got substance, but I still feel it can be better. But, you know, it's giving me a crop right now, whereas if I took it out of the ground, I'd probably have nothing to sell. Not nothing, but it's like it's this kind of, you know, this crop that's giving, and it keeps giving, it keeps giving. So it's all about learning about the plant's performance and when's the best time to get it in the ground and how long to leave it in the ground. Because, you know, you've got to provide food for your local community. That's the pressure you're under. So, you know, how are you going to keep supplying that food? And that means you've always got to have food in the ground, and you always need to protect the soil. So, you know, from even when I didn't know so much about soil, I was always wanting to understand soil and how do you improve it. But understanding now, it's all about the plants doing the work, not you doing the work. The plants are doing the work to improve your soil. So, you know, in the last year, I've seen again an improvement, but I still feel it's got a little way to go with the current site. So you can see here, it's not as uniform as I would like it to be. It's becoming more uniform every month because we keep modifying some of the beds so that we can get more in them. We can utilize areas that are footpaths currently, because you can see there's quite a lot of mulched areas. So we want to get away from all that, you know, blank space that we could be used as growing space. So, you know, and there's therapy gardens in there. So they make up part of that mix. You know, they have plots that they can come and tend to whenever they like, kind of thing. Yeah, so there it is. There's us at the current time, really. Yep, keep going, Emma. I'm not sure what else is there. Oh, there's a few of us on the team, or a few of us that were there the day the photographer came. Yeah, Sean to the left, Maddie to the right, Adrian in front of Maddie. Yeah, and a few of our volunteers on that particular day, which is awesome. And there's Maddie doing her composting. So that's we've been up and running with the soil factory now for maybe even 2 years. Yeah, possibly 2 years. So Maddie started volunteering with us, and then she really took it on. An opportunity came for her to actually embrace that and basically generate enough income for her own job. So, you know, it's fantastic. And she has volunteers supporting her as well to make it happen. Yep, keep going. And again, this is us packing salads. So salads, you know, one of our biggest income generators that we produce off the site. And like Levi, we love diversity in our salad. It's just like, what can we, and I love that we can make it different every week nearly, because there'll be something that's really pumping and you can really, you know, utilize it. And it might be only a small amount, but you only need small amounts of some of those herbs. And the color, you know, just this is about what it's about. It's about being creative. And, you know, you got to spread that love and that creativity out there and give people the joy and that diversity, because that diversity is going to do so much for everyone, the people that eat it, because it's actually working in their own guts, all of that diversity. I don't know if any of you have heard, but we need to stretch the vegetable diversity that we eat in our diets to improve our gut biome. Yeah, cool. How was that? Did that give you a better idea of who we are? Always, photos always make a difference, don't they?
Yeah, I haven't seen Kelmarna.
Okay, Linda.
I've been to Kelmarna for a few years.
Yes.
And that's the tidiest that I've ever seen it, actually.
Yeah.
The path's been very wide. I mean,
yes,
and they're covered with bark all the time.
They're not, well, they've changed again since those photos are taken, Linda, so you have to come and visit us. You know, we're moving into those pathways.
Yeah, what I was wondering is, you said that it sounds like there's currently, or since you've been involved, there's a deficiency in the soils, and you said there's too much phosphorus.
Yes.
Now you are bringing in Daniel's EM, aren't you, to rectify things, but
yeah.
why do you need to bring in stuff when you make it yourself there? You make all those teas, and you do seaweed, and you make
I mean, it's
put seaweed onto all the gardens and all that. I don't understand how it could be deficient, and you know what I mean?
Well, it's because there's been too many inputs of one particular ingredient. So this is where, again, we can destroy or harm our soils if we put too much of one particular ingredient over a period of time. So, you know, Daniel asked the question, what happened what was going on 10 years ago? And Adrian said that there was lots of chicken manure coming in and being directly put on the site. So that could have, you know, charged the phosphorus. So, you know, but there's all those things when there's different people involved, different things get done. And, you know, most of us that are in the market gardening or urban gardening sector have been working with Daniel, and we're learning that too much compost isn't a good thing, you know. So we minimize, well, we've been told we don't need to put any compost on for the next 10 years because the organic matter is just elevated, and the, you know, like, because of the high phosphorus, we need to improve the nutrient cycling. So when we've seen, you know, this is where your plants are the direct feedback of what's actually happening in the soil. You know, how are they growing? Are they improving? Are they giving you like big tubers, or are they giving you tiny tubers? You know, like, are they diseased? If they're diseased, then it says something's out of balance, you know, because, you know, things will only get attacked when they're sick.
Yeah.
So it's just the same as our own health. We have to work at improving our own health so that we don't get sick. So
and there was a lot of tilling, wasn't there? You know, like you had all these different, years ago, you had all these different people that were in charge of their own gardens, and they dug and dug and dug and all that sort of thing. And maybe that had something to do with it as well, you know, that because Levi was saying, you know, that just leave the soil and then all the fungal,
That's
whatever,
right.
and the microorganisms
That's good.
just build
That's
up.
right, Linda. And, like, I don't think since I've been there, anyone's been digging. Most of us knew that already, but we weren't, like, we were told by Daniel to get rid of our broadforks, which some of us had. Most of us had come from that understanding that it's harmful to dig, but then just understanding more about the importance of fungi, because generally our soils are high bacteria, and we want to get those ratios of fungal and bacteria, 50-50 in balance. So how do we do that? We don't dig. Yeah. And how do we improve the fungal networks? We actually inoculate seed before we sow it. So we inoculate with mycorrhizae fungi before we sow that seed. So that sets it off from that original seed is now connected with fungi. The seedling that you plant from the cell or whatever is already got a relationship with the fungi before it enters the soil of your garden. So, like, this is about the work we're doing to improve conditions we're asking a lot. We're asking a lot of our soils. We're saying, we want to see you do your thing. How can we support that?
Well, how do you inoculate the seedlings or whatever?
So we inoculate the seed with a product called arbuscular mycorrhizae fungi. And it's a powder, and you only need a very small amount. And that's what we do. And then we use the other steps that Daniel talked about. Levi talked about Daniel's product. So there's a whole step, there's 4 steps. Daniel designed his products in a step-by-step system. So, step 2 is like a root drench, and step 3 and 4 are both foliar feeds. And this, you can buy a kit for your home garden and just apply it to your plants at home and just see the improvement that comes. So foliar feeds, we're getting into the phyllosphere. So we're spraying onto the leaf, and then it's all entering into the pores of the plant through the stems and the leaves, and then into the root zone. So it's charging it up with microbes and food for microbes, and then entering into the soil zone. So there's multiple ways we can achieve results. And we're all just learning about this, but even without the products, you can improve things by planting densely. Like biointensive farming is what it is, like
we're doing that.
But the polycropping, the increasing the amount of diversity. Look at Levi's amazing photos of his ability to fit 8 species in a 1 meter bed, And so that takes a lot of planning, and I feel that that's where I fall down a bit sometimes, because it's all moving so fast. And suddenly you've got all these seedlings ready, and then you should have really had it designed 6 months ago, what was going in each bed, because that costs a lot of time to actually figure it all out. But if you have figured it out, if you have planned it, so I'm still a bit behind where Levi's up to, doesn't feel easy for me. It's not easy for me yet, but I'm looking forward to it coming through. But every year it gets easier, because you're doing your combinations, you're trialing, you're being creative, and you're trialing combinations of plants. Yep. So you've got to understand days to maturity. How long do they sit in the ground for? When am I going to switch that bed over and plant a new crop? Yeah. It's all timing. It's all
out there all the time, couldn't you, by the sound of it, with all the spraying and the drenching and the planting and this, that, and the other.
Yeah. What about it? It's time.
And planting, especially when there's going to be a full moon, you get more growth. Anyway,
but then if you follow the biodynamic calendar again, like that's, we all have our preferences as to which calendars we would choose to follow. But, then there's more detail comes in with a biodynamic calendar, whether you're planting a root crop, whether you're planting a leaf crop or a flower crop, depending on what sign the moon's in for the next 2 or 3 days or whatever.
Actually have that as part of your course. You know, do you
Well,
find that
there's multiple calendars out there, and you know, I actually, Rihanna, who's working with Levi, she told me that those guys, they use Moon Garden, and so I've just picked that app up and I've got it on my phone, and it's a nice jog to say today's a leaf day, today's a root day, and this is all following constellations. It's following the moon sign. It's you know, like, trial it. The thing is, have fun with it. It's about experimentation. Everyone here should know that, right? You know, we only get better results if we do something different. Well, trial something that you feel good about trialing, and then weigh it up with what you did last year. Was it a success? Was it a failure? What am I going to, you know, like, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to look up the dung beetle thing.
Yeah.
But you know, when you were talking about getting rid of the kikuyu and all that, well, it's hard. It's too difficult to get enough cardboard to get that to use, because that's what I use, and it's very, very effective in bringing the soil down and getting rid of the kikuyu and all the weeds. It's fantastic. But I was wondering, you know, like, I was visualizing you putting the sheep in there or whatever, will eat quite close to the ground, don't they? And then putting a load of chooks in, and they make it all bare and nice for you, so you don't have to dig. You know what I mean? But you said that the dung, you've got to do something, getting rid of the dung, you know, you've got to do
yes,
something.
as I said, Linda, I'm no expert in this field, so yeah, there's a reason why you wouldn't move the chickens in immediately after the sheep. Like, you would give it a 3-day period.
Well, they'd eat all the beetles, wouldn't they?
Of course they would. You're right. So yeah,
Yum,
is
yum.
there, like, thanks everyone for your messages in the chat. What's the calendar you use? So Ellen, it's Moon Garden. Emma, I've been really impressed with the whole plant sunshine science producing. Yep, so that's it. Photosynthesis farmers, that's what we're doing.
Pack it in.
Yeah, pack it in. Like, just try that. If you're not doing that right now, definitely try it this summer. Like, you know, go for it. Create a guild. Think about the plants that you've got ready. Have you got seedlings ready? Put them together and give them, you know, only the space they need. And that can be worked out. And you'll see how good your soil is when you do start.
But one of the things that I noticed with Levi's plants area was that there wasn't a whole lot of alyssum and marigolds all around it. He doesn't need that, because he's got so many other things, coriander and God knows what. But is that the story, you know, like, is that part of it, that, you know, because I like putting lots of flowers all around, you know, just because it looks nice, and well, it's meant
well,
to.
you've got to think about feeding all life, you know, like, that's your goal, right? To have food for all the life that might visit your garden, or you want to attract to your garden. Yeah. Is there anyone else? Yeah.
When I was came in with the video with Matt Cummings.
Yes.
You know, he said a lot of interesting things about, you know, that it's that whole diversity and getting those reactions, you know, and then it'll all become a together. You know, it said even the pathogenic bacteria will work together once it gets into a good balance. So it's about improving the whole system, isn't it?
That's right. It really is, Zane. And, you know, like, that's kind of been my goal for every site I've worked on, you know, over the years, is to see those improvements, but not really understood to the depth that we're learning now. Like, this is a whole, like, I don't know if any of you have seen Kiss the Ground, but it's about this regenerative movement that we're, you know, it's beyond organic, because organic, sure, we've been certified organic for years, but what does that actually stand for? Does that actually stand for caring for the soil? No, it doesn't. Regenerative agriculture is all about caring for the soil. It's about understanding the soil. So Dr. Elaine Ingham is, like, you know, the guru out there who's really promoting soil biology and what
Yeah.
we can be doing to increase or improve our soil. So, you know, it's like they're teaching us, the soil teaches us,
Mm.
you know, like when I started at Kelmarna, I could find one worm or two worms if I dug a hole. Now I can find at least 5 worms when I dig a hole. So, you know, that's a sign of life. So that's a sign of an improvement. So, you know, there's got to be life in the soil for the worms. So,
Well, you know,
no,
that's how we're going, you know, that's the soil for climate change method, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
that once you get that biodiversity and everything's in harmony,
yes,
and it's regenerating itself
yeah,
and
yeah,
creating
and rebuilding
fertile,
itself. Yes, yes,
and then that's the key to the climate change, and it's getting an awareness. I'll get the wider community that this is the way forward.
and this is the exciting thing, Zane, because it's on everybody's lips at the moment, this topic,
Yes.
right? And it's like, it's good, it's fantastic because everybody needs to know this. Like,
Yes.
you know, this is the only message that needs to get out globally, that agriculture needs to change the way it's practicing. It's old,
Exactly.
it's old methodology needs to go, you know. And we all need to become more aware of what we're doing has been harmful, and we don't want to lose carbon. So let's start grabbing onto it, or
Yep.
let's start allowing the microbes to hold it in the soil. And that means no destruction, no turning, no tilling. So, and composting where we can. Making compost is so important. It really is part of the whole, you know, like it completes the cycle. That's really,
Yep.
you know, essential, you know, that we are all holding this, working on our own sites and actually utilizing the resources we have to make compost. Yeah.
Well, that's where the worms are.
Yep. Hopefully in your garden as well, Linda.
Well, that they're, and the thing is, the birds keep trying to get them, and they keep digging everything up, and I can't get any bird what do you call it, bird netting.
You can't get any. Well, I guess, have you got any chicken wire, or have you got
yeah,
old,
I do,
any
actually.
old net curtains that you could throw over your beds? You know, the birds are really
Yeah,
active at the
I do.
moment.
But that's what Paul Crowhurst was saying last thing. He said he tried to encourage the birds because that they're all everything's, that's why you have the
Part of the-
animals as well, because it's all part of
Yeah.
the system, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, it
you
is.
have to get that balance, all working together and all being able to provide something. Nature is all about that, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's times of the year when the birds are more active than, like right now they are really active, but then they cool off. So, you know, Adrian says to me, we didn't used to have to net the gardens, but you know, it's like essential to net the gardens right now,
Yes.
because you lose seedlings. But it's all about, because the density is there as well. You know, they come in because there's food for them. And there's obviously, you know, lots of food there now, even with the slugs and snails. So yes, I love hearing the thrushes like smashing their snails on the pavement, on the concrete or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I don't know what else, if anyone's wanting to know, but for the whole operation that we're our expansion phase, we are going into a crowdfunding campaign because we want to generate income to actually achieve our goal. So just letting you know that that will be launched in November, 22nd of November. So if you want to be a player in our future, you can get in touch with us either on that date when we launch it, or, you know, sooner, just to let us know your interest so we can keep you updated. So that's how we intend to actually achieve our tree planting goals, our animal goals, our expansion into the paddocks. So this is, you know, we're dependent on our community to help us get there. And that's in, as I said, as volunteers, but also financially. We're part of our community. And so we want to give you the opportunity to be part of Kelmarna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks for that. That's going to be a great site to come and visit.
Yes,
Yeah.
Emma, absolutely. I'd love to see you there.
I've never been there, so I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, good.
What's the
Field
best day of the
day.
week?
Well, actually, I'm there Tuesdays and Fridays. Well, and but any day, when it came on a Saturday, there's still Saturday volunteering. But if you just want to go for a tour, you're welcome to do that. We can organize for you to have a guided tour if you wanted that, but just on your own account, you can come and have time at Kelmarna. It's a nice place to even come and sit and have a picnic or have a cup of tea at the table, have a wander, see what's in the food forest, and just really see it for yourselves.
And how's COVID impacting on that?
It's of course not a time right now to come and hang out, but it is a time if you've bought vegetables of us, you can come and collect them from us. We're really busy with sales, like our best sales yet, because we're listing everything that's on the site. Things that wouldn't normally get sold, like nettle is on the list. And, we're selling seeds as part of what we sell as sales, seedlings. So, I've got a really great core team that are actually pumping out seedlings at the moment and kind of helping me to get the beds planted. So, yeah, when we move through to the next level, hopefully I'll see you all there.
Right.
Yeah,
I've got lots of nettle for free if anyone wants it.
right.
Dig it up.
What
Feed it
about
to your chicken.
sourcing EM? Do we all do it, or a biochar? Do we do it individually, or is there a bulk thing that we can? What's everybody doing?
We can get hold of Charles and see if he can do something special for us.
Yeah, well, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yep, good
I'm
idea.
a bit worried about the chook manure though, because I've got lots of bags of it, and I've got some that's very broken down. It's like lovely sweet soil, and I've been flinging it around everywhere, and now I'm worried. Too much phosphorus, maybe. How do you counteract it? Does anyone know? More nitrogen or what?
Well,
Definitely not.
Potassium.
Definitely not.
it's mainly nitrogen, so
Yeah.
It's made phosphorus, isn't it? Like
no, made nitrates.
So what you don't want, nitrates, which is what we've got, high nitrates, we want ammonium nitrogen. So we've got to get the fungi to convert it into ammonium nitrogen.
Mm.
Yeah, you're sort of better probably putting it in your compost to decompose it than putting it in onto your garden.
True. I did put it in the compost originally, but now I'm sprinkling it everywhere. Anyway,
it's a good way of getting up that nitrogen balance, whatever it is, 30-1, and there's a whole lot of different theories, but
it is potted down, like it's really just like soil.
no, it is soil. It's been converted by the bacteria and fungi and into something. It is soil. So
I know that when I did get some sheep put from someone years ago, and it was all white and it was fresh, freshish and dry, but that made the rhubarb keep going to seed all the time, and it did that for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
So it's very potent.
Yeah, well, I had sheep for quite a while, and they did a really good job, and the worms loved. Worms really brought them on as well. So
It's a bit more balanced than the chook manure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sheep manure, yeah. But chicken gives that real boost to your compost. It really brings it along. So
well, I'll see what happens. It's an experiment, and probably everything will go to seed, but we'll see.
Yeah, well,
Put it around the trees as well, because I'm I've had to fix up the
Without
tree.
farming, it's time
sort
for
of
a
thing.
sleep. Who's saying that? Levi.
Oh, that was me, isn't it, for Levi?
I think Levi's having dinner.
You're going to
Yep.
sleep now.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep now, guys.
Okay.
Hey,
A
Adios.
wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful
Sounds
talk.
good.
Thank you
And,
very much, both
Bye
of
for that,
yous, and
Levi.
you're a
Thanks,
real
guys.
inspiration to all of us, and got us all enthused. I'm sure,
Yes.
Yeah,
and
all
And
about
we'll
growing-
definitely drop
we-
by.
fully
all about
support,
growing plants, eh? Gotta
fully
keep remembering
supporting
that.
you. Yeah.
Yes, we always hop back into all those other things that we think we need, but all you need is soil, sunlight, water, and plants, and compost. That's it.
And the end.
Yes,
yeah.
that
Guys.
water's really important.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Zane.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we finished?
Yeah,
Adios.
we're finished.
Okay. Oh, that went all right, didn't it?
Mm,
That's very good.
good.
Oh, no, well,